Basically, today we're going to be talking about constituency attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's for me, it's quite a new concept, but it's not really new. It's been there and it's enshrined in law and it's enshrined in actually culture. But it
Mm-hmm.
seems somehow along the way, the candidates have found a way to violate it because of the easiness of voter registration and the easy mobility, as it were, in northern Uganda and in the rest of Uganda, really. Um, Personally, I think, constituency attachment is about being actively local in a community. And, it is a principle that enshrines fair representation, and candidates need to be actively local in a community. And we see a lot of candidates that are local in a community perform far better. For example, Mapenduzi has done a lot. He's got a lot of love for Gulu. He's very invested in Gulu life. We saw that with the late Ochara, sort of to speak. And I think it gives the local people voice because these people then are approachable. These are people they know, and these are people that there's an element of shame when they embarrass themselves to their own local community. And I think this is why, for me, the issue of constituency attachment is very important in Uganda politics, as it were now. And we will be discussing, as always, I leave the examples to you and Charlie. Um, but if I could just add the importance of constituency attachment, one, the leaders always tend to be very accountable because they're local to the people. There's really no place to run. Two, it keeps the resources within the community because they're local to the community. So resources will not be diverted. For example, MPs get an allowance for constituency meetings and everything. If somebody is not local to a place, that money is not going to be used for that purpose. It will end up being used for individual purpose, sort of to speak. And this is enshrined I mean, take it this way. If you are a Ugandan, then it's easy to get the Ugandan passport for you. So it's enshrined in our identity. And when you apply for the Ugandan passport, what do they ask you? They ask you where you're from, two or three ancestral people who are famous from the area. Even when you go to register to become a candidate or to get your voters card, they ask you your LC1 and all these things. But for some reason, these candidates seem to be violating it, in that we have seen in the past people fail in a constituency, then straight away they're running to another constituency to test, to contest. So now I ask myself, okay, if you contested in Gulu and now you've run to Omoro, really, where are you local to? Do you see what I mean? So there is a flaw in the system that needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, our job is restricted to just discussing and raising these issues, as it were. So I'm going to start off with you and then go on to Charlie. Very quickly, if you can give me, your own definition of what you think constituency attachment is, um, and then we will go on to the second and the third question, and then I will bring Charlie on to give his own perspective also. Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, let me start off by thanking our viewers to taking their time, taking off their precious time to come and view and learn from this platform that we are trying to put under awareness. So straight to the point, definition of constitutional attachment can be defined in very many ways. But as to me, as Harry, the way
Mhm.
I define constitutional attachment, one, because depends on there are very many levels of leadership, but reflecting like our region, the way
Mhm.
as you say, it has been abused time and again. The way I define it, one, to be attached to a constituency should be whereby, for me, you have to have like an address. You have an address to that local community that you want to lead as a leader. By having an address doesn't mean that you just come rent in Gulu, then before you know you want to stand for a position. No, you have to have a home, because as a leader you need to have a home that you defend. That's how I can define the one definition of constitutional attachment. But from a lady's leadership perspective, that's different though, because a lady can grow somewhere or has a home somewhere, but can get married to a different community. So if you define it as a lady, that's a different definition altogether. Then there are
So
some.
that brings us to the gender dynamic, and that is a very strong thing in actually culture. Sort of when a lady is married, the responsibility for her and her children gets transferred then to the family that has married her. But not only that, in the same light, a lady is not married, then what tends to happen is the man has no claim over the children. So in a sense, we see that this culture is meant to protect resources and is meant to protect a sense of belonging and identity in that particular community, which is the whole purpose of emphasizing the need for constituency attachment, really.
Yeah. So I was still continuing. That's another definition of a lady's perspective, being married to a man's area. Okay, married to into a different community. Then another thing that, like the example you gave, Mapenduzi. Okay, we know his origin is not Gulu like us. Almost everybody in town is not a Gulunian or from Gulu, but just his father or where he grew up or his place of birth, that was his father's home. Now he war brought in a lot of people in Gulu, or a lot of people relocate and move, so he came to Gulu, adapted to Gulu, calls Gulu his home. He built his home in Gulu, so that's what we call constitutional identity. Meanwhile, there are some other people who just want to come in. Probably those will be maybe I can explain it later down the road, but just as briefly, that's how I call constitutional identity. So when it comes to politics, one, you should have a house, a home in that constituency. At least to me, I would say somebody who has had a home, a personally built home in the last 5 years, at least 5 years within that.
Basically, what you're saying is somebody who has had a period of residence in this community and has a sort of social connection in this community, i.e. friends, a good circle of friends, i.e. Knowledge and awareness of the people and their culture and how they do things, probably attached to a local church or something. So there must be some sense of being local by resident and active as well, not just coming and visiting and renting a home and straight you want to be an MP for these people. And you differentiate the cultural dynamic very well, and that's very important for people to understand. And probably as well, besides all those things, I think
let me stop you.
ethnicity and origin begins to play a role somehow, but not really that pivotal a role, sort of, to speak.
Renting, let me stop you because, for example, if a person who is a business person in Gulu, okay, business moves. So, like, for example, like all these transport companies, they have a home base address in Gulu, they have an address in Kampala. So, by renting in Kampala, or maybe you have like a in the midway, maybe you have like Mijera, you might have like a connecting office. So by renting in Mijera, that doesn't mean that you're a resident in Mijera. So that's why, to me, renting should be ruled out. So to those who try to look critically at their leaders, because renting, anybody can have a business. You move, like you see a lot of investors come into Uganda, but then doesn't mean that they can qualify to be leaders per se.
Exactly.
Have somebody having a home, permanent home.
Okay, exactly. So residence is very important to show that you are attached to a certain community. Let's move on to the second question then. Why is it important to elect leaders local to a constituency. Why do you think it's very important that people elect leaders who are local to themselves? Like leaders, they know sort of their background, they know their upbringing, they know, their family, or, why do you think it's very important?
Electing locally, you have a person who has stayed local, say like a person, per se, somebody who grew up in that community, knows the struggles that they've been having from day one, or he knows what the youth or what the community needs. Unlike somebody coming, we see it so much in Gulu politics, whereby because some powerful or Munene wants to bring either his relative, or I think if I'm to see, for example, I think there's one of the candidates is going to come into Gulu, but as far as I know, he has no residence in Gulu just because he has an Acholi name. He stays in Kampala. He has never stayed in Gulu, so he has nothing to do with Gulu. But just because he sees an opportunity there, he just wants to stand in there. Then that's kind of robbing from.
It is a good example. If you don't mind, you can say the name of the person really, because we are all about honesty here.
Yeah, I think, yeah, for example, I think if that one could be, is it the name, somebody, Christopher, there's one of the candidates, I think, by name
Okidi
Christopher.
Christopher. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, I think Okidi Christopher is a cousin to Geoffrey Okello Riem, and they're strong base, and their family has always been more of linked to Kampala, and then Chua East, I think, as a family. So really, he doesn't have a basis of standing in Gulu. He's not local to Gulu. He's not resident in Gulu. He's not very active in Gulu life, except for when it comes to opportunistic sort of opportunistic what the strikes, or whatever you like to call it. So yeah, that is a very good example really. Okidi Christopher makes one good example of
Then another
non-constituent.
example I could give to Liam. Okay, that one has, okay, we know she comes from Lamour, but has done everything all her life has been in Gulu. So at certain point she was planning to go to Lamour, but then I think she has changed her mind to come contest into Gulu. So that makes a
She's very
valid.
local to Gulu.
That makes valid. That validates her changing her mind to Gulu. Then another kind of like a move that I see maybe might not. That could be like a opportunist kind of like move. Yeah, we all know Bosnich has grown up in Gulu. Everything has been in Gulu, not until when campaign time. Now all of a sudden we know, oh, their home place is in Chua.
Yeah, and then you find that it doesn't have a home in Chua. It doesn't have any good. But Bosmic does have social connection in Chua, I would have thought. But I think in the same light as well, we could say the same for Otoodong as well, because he grew up in Gulu, lives most of his life in Gulu and Kampala, and then when Aru County came up, he just went and took over, and really he went and filled a space that wasn't his.
Actually, even up to now, like talking about Dongoto, he goes visit Aru, but he spends the night in Gulu. So that's pretty much like good examples of daytime robbery, robbing from people those those who have been involved into like leadership at ground level in Aru.
And I think the sad truth is a lot of these guys who are not very local to a place don't seem to want to even invest in these places. They will instead rather go and invest in Kampala and build a big home in Kampala. And I mean, we've all had the old story of a minister dies, and then when the body is being taken to the village, the people have to start by clearing a road. And that is a clear example of people who are not really attached to a place. They're just there to exploit a place. And this is the kind of thing that we want to encourage our voters to desist from this kind of people, but rather go for people that they know, people that live amongst them, people who, if they have problems, they can reach, people who know their local leaders. I very much doubt if some of these MPs even have a connection with the local LC1 or LC2 infrastructure. I think most of them just come across, and the rest of the leadership structure in a place doesn't really matter to them at all.
That,
Let's move on
that's
to the
one
third
thing
and the
that I
final
wanted to
thing.
also, yeah, that's one of the points I wanted to also talk of, like when you are seeing the political attachment, it's
Mm,
like they should say like former or like current LCs, say like from LC1 to LC3 should
mm,
have like a lot of endorsing. If like it, like they should put it in a such a way whereby LC1, LC2 up to LC3 should have like a bigger percentage into endorsement, because these are their word means a lot, because they'll be saying, okay, this leader has never stepped foot into the constituency,
mm,
so he's out of touch with the community. An example, like you see, we always talk of bringing Norbert Ma. When he was MP,
mm,
he was very talented, but when he came to LC5, because he was more of a
mm.
Kampala leader or Kampala politician, he had to face it rough as LC5,
Yeah,
and that
Norman
is
Mao
where a lot of
he's
his
never been
issues.
attached to Gulu, and is very disconnected with the realities of Gulu. I'm sad to say he's got this general knowledge of what affects the Acholi. And we see a lot of these political survivors that lack constituency attachment tend to cling to this adage of, oh, we are Acholi, we stand for Acholi, and all this nonsense. But the actual fact is, before you stand for Acholi, you need to stand for your people. And that's the
Mm.
purpose and the whole point of a member of parliament's position. It's about representing the voice of a specific people. It's not about representing the voice of the Acholi. And this is why when they go to parliament now, they form this Acholi parliamentary group and whatever other groups people form there. So really the basics need to be the basics, and people need to open their eyes to that fact that before a member of parliament starts to jump and claim, oh, we are representing actually all this and that. No, you are supposed to represent a specific voice of a specific people, and this would do away with this this transient politics where people just move from one constituency to another. And if I can reemphasize what you said, I think the LC1 to LC3 infrastructure should be given more voice to endorse, because they know the people in their areas. So they should be, just like how when you apply for a passport, you have to go through them. I think this
Mhm.
should become kind of like that, really. Yeah, if we can move on to sort of the third and final question here. And hang on, I've lost my questions. Um, whose role is it to enforce constituency attachment then? We know it's defined in law, it's enshrined in law. You must belong to a place to represent a place. And this is the same reason, you must hold an ID which identifies where you're from exactly. And
Mhm.
but whose role is it to enforce it? Is it government, voters, or the constitution, or the courts, or is it really everybody?
I mean, the thing is structured, is written in law, yeah, word on paper. But if you're a local who minds so much about your community, yeah,
Mm.
this is the time like either to wake up, other than just wake up and really take things seriously, other than just falling for fake politicians who keep on, or leaders who keep on come and just let me say per se, we always say job seekers, people who are in for job seeking,
Mm,
other than
is very,
giving services.
and we saw that a lot when they started bringing new constituents. I mean, the boss make example is very classical, because at first he wanted to stand in Gulu West, and then all of a sudden he turned around and he's going to Chua West, and straight away it shows you, well, where are you local to? Do you know what I mean? Which place does your heart belong to? Because if you don't love a place as much, I doubt you will do much for that place or that community really. Um, yeah, so that's about it. You presented us with some very nice examples there. If I can move on to Charles and see what he has to say as well, and then finally I can bring Leica in. If you could just make your summary of the whole thing, why this is very important and people need to pay attention and take it seriously, please.
Uh, one, one, if somebody wants within your constituency, people have to tell them where's your house or your home, permanent home that you built into the constituency, because rent is not a permanent home. A permanent home is that house that you build for yourself. Then two, people they need to see who connects with the LC1 to LC3 structure. It's very important, because
Mm,
if you're a leader, say your MP or like LC5 chairman, whom do you contact when you want to get what affects a particular, because what affects the Logi is
mm.
different with what affects a Naga, and it's different what affects a Patero. So they have their own personal things that needs to be addressed at LC1 up to LC3 level.
Oh,
So attachment with LCs. Then three, let me see, what would be my third point? Okay, people need to also define what between permanent residency, temporary residency, then say like a business. People should also not confuse between having a business in the area. Okay, it's okay to have a business in the area. Say we know Odongato, most of his business are in Gulu. But
mm.
having your personal business shouldn't be mixed up with what you have for your community, because community project can never be your business. That's all I can say, because there's that saying that somebody was this powerful, but when you go to his ancestral home, he has nothing. But all right, if he has his ancestral home, and his ancestral home can be his permanent address. Then this issue of saying that, oh, you come from this area, like for example, you say the best example of Mapenduzi. He's
Mm,
in Gulu, he adapted Gulu City as his home. He has done a lot for Gulu City, and nobody can refute that. So
exactly.
that's all I can say for today.
Okay. All right then. Thank you very much, Harry. Let me get Charles and then quickly get Leica Martins on as well, if I can. Charles, are you ready? I think Charles should be ready. Okay. I'm gonna have to say good day, because it's still morning for you, and
Okay.
try and bring in Charles and Martins in the second and the third bit of this discussion now. It's always good having you. Thank you very much for your contributions,
Thank you
and I
too.
look forward to seeing you next Sunday. But we will be talking after this as usual. I really
All
appreciate it.
right.
All right, see
Thank
you
you.
later.